Hello and welcome to this Philbert Flies review of UK2000's Inverness 2020HD scenery for Microsoft Flight Simulator. You join me here on final approach to runway 23 at Inverness, and I'm starting with an approach as always to give you a little look at the surrounding area, which it must be said is pretty spectacular, and also to give you the opportunity to assess the performance of this add-on on my system, which is comprised of an i7-8700K processor with 32GB of RAM and a 1080 Ti graphics card. You will notice one or two stutters during this approach, particularly during rollout, and I did experience these stutters in the sim as well, but they look about 5 times as bad on the video as they did for me. Now this is just a byproduct of recording your screen, I think. I haven't been able to fix it, but all I will say is that the performance of this scenery on my computer has been absolutely fine. Anyway, I'll let you enjoy the final approach and landing in peace. I'll show you the taxi in, seeing as it's so short, and I'll join you again at a gate when we'll have a good look around this scenery in different weather and lighting conditions. Speak to you shortly.
Retard. 10, 5.
Welcome to Inverness. You'll notice that there are no stands marked up on the ground here, and that is true to life. In the real world, a marshaller meets the aircraft more or less off the end of the runway and guides them to exactly where they want them to park. The downside of this in the sim is that you can park more or less anywhere and you don't know if it's realistic or not. The upside is, wherever you park, it looks good. You can't mess it up. Anyway, moving on, let's have a look at some of the modelling and texturing on the main terminal building here. So the texture work at this airport is really pretty good. If you get super close, the textures get blurry, but they're plenty sharp enough for me, plenty sharp enough to look just right when you pull up in an aircraft. And moving further along, you will notice something that I certainly find quite exciting. For the first time, I think, in a UK2000 scenery, we have a modelled terminal interior. Let's pop in and take a quick look. So this is really, really pretty good. We've got people, we've got benches, we've got pictures on the wall. We don't have windows that you can see out of from the inside, but we do know from other developers that this isn't easy to achieve. Either the glass disappears, or it looks opaque, or the night lighting doesn't quite work from the inside. That's my understanding anyway. So I'm absolutely fine with that. This is a terminal that's been designed to be viewed from the outside, and from the outside it looks really, really good. We've got a good amount of detail in the modelling. These structures that cover the windows, these bars, look very, very nice. We've got nice amounts of detail in the pillars. The roof's been very nicely done, and we've got a decent quality fence around the airport as well. There are one or two glitches in some of the texture work, which you'll notice as you look around the airport. We've got a little bit of flickering up here, and down here you'll notice that there's a bit of a mismatch between two textures, which means these horizontal lines don't match up. Very minor points in my opinion, and overall the texture work's really very good. Some considerable work has gone into the landside parts of the airport as well. You'll notice we have parked cars, we have a bus outside, and we even have some people. And if we get down close, you'll notice that there's a limited amount of transparent glass on the front as well, so you can see the interior of the terminal from outside. The ground textures are the default out here as far as I can tell. They're certainly very blurry, and that's, as I've said before, a little bit of a shame. My view is that if you're going to put work into the front of the terminal, you may as well put a little bit of work into the surroundings as well. But as I've also said before, I'm really not that fussed about what the landside areas look like, because I rarely visit them except when I'm doing a review. Back over on the apron, you'll notice that there's a huge amount of detail included, from these chains to metal barriers to the usual air stairs, pushback vehicles and luggage dollies, but also we have people, and that is something that you don't often see in add-on airports. So we've got people inside the terminal here, we've got people outside, and we've got animated dispatchers and other ground staff dotted about the place as well, and that really does help to add a lot of life to the place. As you move north away from the main terminal, the quality of the modelling and texturing gets a little bit worse. Now, from my point of view, that isn't the end of the world, because these aren't buildings that you're going to get particularly close to in normal operations, but if you do get close, you will notice the blurry static window textures and the general low resolution textures that are in use. UK2000 give you the option to install this scenery with or without static aircrafts, which I really like. I wish more developers would do that. I've chosen to install it with statics. You'll have noticed at the main terminal that there aren't any airliners included, and I think this is fairly prototypical. Inverness isn't a particularly busy airport, and it only has a few airline flights a day. What we do have are these little Cessnas and business jets up on the north apron, and they look really good. They're good quality models, they're not the sharpest textures, but better than nothing in my opinion. This gate leads from the landside part of the airport to the north apron west side, and it's a good example of some really crisp texturing and some nice details. Look how sharp these signs are, and look how good this fence is. It's really impressive. There are quite a few little nooks and crannies at this airport, and I really like the amount of clutter that Gary's included in them. So not only do we have static aircraft, but we have some oil drums, we've got some well-modelled hangars, we've got a fuel farm. It's really, really nice. A good amount of detail has been included away from the main apron areas, such as this firefighter training area, and this search and rescue helicopter base, which has been really nicely modelled and really nicely textured, and comes complete with static helicopters both inside and out. The ground textures at this airport have been done very well indeed. They are super crisp, no blurriness whatsoever, no odd blurry lines in between different materials and surfaces, and having looked at the Google satellite imagery, I would say that a very good job has been done of matching the materials used and their colours to the real thing. The ground markings look very good too. The taxiway centreline, to me, looks just the right colour, not too faded, not too sharp, and the taxiway centreline lights are nicely detailed. The grassy areas look great, with a good variety of densities of grass and shades, and the taxiway signs are nicely detailed and very easy to read. The runway looks pretty good. It's definitely the right colour. The markings are approximately right, but they're not perfect. But there are a few little anomalies which I think might be things left over from the satellite imagery, like the runway numbers. You can just see a dark outline underneath them. And I also find these weird repeating tyre marks a little bit odd. The Google satellite imagery doesn't show too much rubber marking at all, but what there is centred around the touchdown zone. And we do have that to an extent here. The actual touchdown zone itself looks quite good. The night lighting at this airport looks pretty good. The apron is very nicely floodlit, and the terminal building doesn't look too bad. I have to say, I was expecting slightly more with the transparent glass windows. What we have here looks like a strange mixture of flat textures, which are being projected onto the windows, and a hint of the terminal inside. Now, this is the first time UK2000 have implemented any transparent glass, so I think we can give them a pass. And no developer has got the inside lighting quite right in this situation. The buildings away from the main terminal look passable at night. As you would expect, without transparent glass, we're reliant on flat textures, and these look perfectly okay from afar, but a little bit blurry if you get up too close. The lighting on the fire station here is entirely reliant on flat textures, which is a little bit of a shame because it means you can't see the nicely modelled 3D fire engines out the front. Would have been good to see some flood lighting out the front here, I would say. The north apron looks quite atmospheric by night, and its surrounding buildings have passable flat textures giving the impression of a lit interior. They look pretty good. The taxiways are nicely lit with centerline lights, and the taxiway signage is also lit up very, very nicely. The lighting on the main runway is very nicely done, as is the lighting around the search and rescue helicopter base, which has not only floodlights lighting up the apron outside it, but also interior lighting inside the hangar. Very nicely done indeed. Here's Inverness in the rain, and I'm pleased to say that the ground textures look every bit as good in the wet as they do in the dry. Nicely reflective, and the default puddles work very, very well with them. And here's Inverness in the snow. I actually think it looks pretty good. We've got a good covering of snow everywhere. It's thickest on the runway and in front of the terminal building, and we've got a slightly thinner covering over this part of the taxiway and around other areas of the airport. The grass looks fantastic, and there aren't too many weird totally clear patches as you get in some other airports. Now, I know developers are limited somewhat by what the sim can do with snow. It can't put snow on buildings, for example. But within those confines, I think that UK2000 have done a pretty good job. So, what do I think of UK2000's Inverness? Well, I really like it. The modelling is great, the ground textures are super crisp, the quality of the building textures is a little variable, but it's good where it really matters, and I'm very pleased to see transparent glass and interior modelling for the first time in a UK2000 scenery. There are a couple of areas of flickering texture issues that I'd like to see fixed, and I think the terminal lighting could be improved slightly. But overall, it's a really lovely recreation of the airport. I'm particularly impressed by the amount of life around the place, the people, the vehicles. It really does make this a very lifelike place to be. In short, I think this is UK2000's best work yet. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this review useful. If you have, do please click the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you're feeling flush, you can even donate to the channel via the Streamlabs link in the top left. I hope to see you again soon here on Phil But Flies. Take care, bye bye.